Good morning, everyone. Today is December the 5th, and this is the Moneyball Morning Report for the Benzinga Pro platform. It is a Thursday. That means you can see me on Top Step TV on Fast Markets. We'll be trading together and looking at mechanics in terms of raw motion. Really looking forward to it today. So let's take a peek at what's going on. Here is our halfback. We got right into the top of it, fading. What is this formation telling us? All right. We have to look a little more closely. One, we're waiting on the employment situation tomorrow. Two, we have a largely uptrending formation, so we know it is, in general, by the dip. But here's what's happening. We've got a floor at about 60.91. And so as long as we hold that 60.90 area, buyers are going to feel pretty good about hopping in to buy the dip. That said, if we lose 60.90, the next area will be 5 points below at the close of the VWAP for the prior day, and that is around and about 60.85. What do we have showing here? What we have showing is some negative pressure, but holding support. We're also underneath the hull, but the trend is up. So if we buy the dip, because we are under the hull and we just made the halfback, we have to think about taking profit at the top of the range and then raising our stop. This is the best way to look at this formation as we potentially expand into 61.15. Okay? Upside pressure is there. Notice the wicks that we've seen from prior days. Doesn't mean they're going away. Some divergence. And so if you're thinking to yourself, ooh, I'm buying the dip, stay out of the way if it loses 60.90 and does not recapture it. If you're thinking about going long, I would not advise buying the breakout. There's not enough momentum to do that. We're in a topping formation and we have negative divergence. So, going to be sideways. Wait for price to come to you to see where that is. My thought is probably around 60.90, but it could be 60.85. Notice also that general volume has dropped off a cliff. And that is very important when you look at prices moving to the north. Okay? Super important because things don't hold unless volume ends up confirming. Volume doesn't say, hey, listen, if we don't have volume, we're never going to test X. That's not how to look at volume. What volume says is, hey, if I test X, it better hold, or else I'm going to fade into a space that's got more volume. Here we are, top of the box, right? We could squeeze the box up a little more. We are inside of the value area in the Qs. Yesterday, tech went off the rails, just started taking over again. I don't know if this is the last hurrah of buying things into the general formations. I have no idea what's going on there. But I will say this. It's important that there wasn't a lot of volume. That's very important. Okay? So, that being said, what are we looking at? Sideways pressure. We were under the hull. Now we're above the hull. Where is support? 21,492. Old resistance, new support. Ideal place to look with minimal risk. Or we fall back into the base of the VWAP from yesterday, and that's 449. There was a lot of volume sitting around that area. Look at the negative divergence. High reading here on momentum. Lower high reading on momentum. That gives you the shot at saying, you know what? I'm going to short the top, which incidentally I have pre-market, but my target is simply that 505 area where I'm going to jam into support. Okay? Watch these edges. If you're thinking to yourself, Anne-Marie, what happens if it breaks out? Where's my target? So now we can draw a smaller box showing old resistance, new support, and we simply can clone it, right? Look to the upside pressure event. What does that give us? Looks to me like 21,600, 21,610. Guess what? That's also a gamma line of extreme importance. If you want to clone it to the downside, you're going to see that support action is sort of right in the middle of that. So it could break this ledge, come back into 436, and then recover, okay? Liquidity is not, I mean, it's all the way down here at 340, okay? But the negative divergence does tell us that sellers are going to try and get involved there. Let's take a look at the YM. Oh my goodness. Talk about being sideways. I just saw a piece of news that said that the US market was 68% of global markets. All right? That feels like a lot. Next one in line is Japan, and that's like 5. So we've got ourselves some interesting stuff. Take a look again. Here's a high. Here's another high. Momentum looks about the same. So what this tells me, again, buy the dip. If you're trying to short this, you're moving against trend, and you need to watch out for that, okay? Doesn't mean it's not going to give you a very nice short. Absolutely. I love shorting. But here's the thing. You want to short when the market tells you to short. Here I'm underneath the hull. I have a flat VWAP. My trend is up. So it tells me I'm going to find buyers at old resistance that could be new support. So here we are. Let's say we buy it here. Do we have infinite upside? I would say no. One, we dipped lower in this range. Here's a high. Here's a low. Here's a lower low. Here's a high. Here's a potential lower high. And we've got liquidity. So if you choose to take the trade long off of this fade at 45,000 and some change, going to the VWAP is likely the best bet for you at this juncture. So, Isaac Rivera likes to say, is the juice worth the squeeze? Meaning you put yourself in a position that says, well, wait a second, I want to go long, but I'm really going to have to manage this because I don't see a clear motion event. It might be better to wait for the wicks that come down here at 44. We've got an employment number ahead in just a few moments that could give us the wick. I like the wishing orders to come into play here, and that might be because this is particularly sideways that I would choose a short at 45,190, and I would choose a long all the way down here at 45,870. And that gives me the entire range of the box. And I do something like a one lot or something that tells me, hey, watch out for what you're doing right there. Okay? That's what I would be looking for. Tomorrow's going to give us the same event, only it's the employment situation, and that's the great big number that we're waiting on. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. That is not an MBR, it's MBT. Okay. Yes, it broke to the north. Of course, we knew a big move was coming. My hope was that it was downside. Now, let's take a look at the newest box that's developing. This, value area high, value area low. So let's draw a new box. I'm going to move it here where old resistance becomes support. We have several hours, and then rocket ship to the moon at about 9 o'clock. That's Asia markets opening up. So let's clone it. What are we going to get? Top of the box. Now here's the thing. We're under the hull, but the trend is clearly up. And so there's an opportunity for the chase here. Key support zone, a little bit above the halfback, which is about 102. 1025, of course we know that 500 round number, but let's clone it again. And let's look at the halfback here, eyeballs wide, looks like about 107. All right, what's the ideal thing to do here? Well, of course it's buy the dip, right? We want to buy the dip. So is it going to give us a dip? I say yes. This is going to be thin volume, and it's very likely, take a look, see this high? Almost here at this high, and we have a drift down in momentum. That said, the trend is up. So folks are buying these higher levels at around 103 and hoping to get to 105 to 107, right? That is my thought. My first thought would be, I'm not doing any shorting here. I'm going to wait for the fade and reignite in the long. I just don't like taking this thing short. It could shred you in a second, right? Shred you in an absolute second. All right, let's look at oil. OPEC came out, gave us some news, caused a bounce. But here's the thing. Even if OPEC hadn't come out with the news, look at where we are in grand support zones. 67.90 to 68. Hey, they bought it here. Let's give it a go. I mean, we did make a higher high. It is at the bottom of the range. Sometimes we overthink the market. Here's what we have to consider. One, we have downward sloping formation, so it's just not a buy and hold because it's going to the moon. It is going to be a buy into resistance, and the volume point of control is sitting right here at 68.79. Very big number, a place to take profit. Listen, if it pulls back and gives us another shot at 68, but does not head lower, we've got a choice to go long again. Not a bad idea, okay? As long as price action says, hey, let's see what the pullback looks like. And look at how it worked here. Up, pulled back into the value area low, and then ran for the hills. Let's take a look at that very same trade again. Let's take a peek at it. Can we get along around this 68 level? I'll be looking for it. I'll be very excited to see it. But I'm also going to collapse into a 5-minute, wait for it to confirm, and then be off to the races. Because remember, in the grand scheme of near term, we've got lower highs and lower lows. What we are expecting for it to do is the same thing it did here. Lower highs, lower lows, failure to head lower, and then a retest with a higher support, and then Bob's your uncle. All right? Gold, oh my gosh. Mosh Pit Central, okay? Just, a box within a box. So let's expand it a little. We can see we're at the top of the box, very sideways. My suspicion is this is going to run according to the employment numbers tomorrow. Now, could you say, Anne-Marie, I've got my lower highs, lower lows. I'm at the top of the box. I want to short here. You could, but momentum looks pretty good. So I'm going to guess they're going to head out of the box and try to get into this upper edge of resistance, about 26.70. And then I'm going to look for a topping visual with my momentum indicators. That's what I'm going to stare down, right? That looks like a mess. I really wouldn't touch it. Let's go to SPY. I did a show with the live investing podcast with IBD, and we talked a lot about what we're seeing in these markets. Notice, listen, have I mentioned buy the dip? Yes, I have. This channel, it broke out, and it's still holding the top of the channel. Listen, this is still a buy the dip. Things have gotten a little steeper. Here's the rub. We've got ourselves a top and then another top with less momentum. So the drift into frontline support going to be the more likely event. You know what? If it holds 606, we're in good shape. As long as it holds 606, you can run for the rails. Don't buy the breakout. Every single breakout event has had a collapse into support, and sometimes that collapse has been fairly steep. So just wait for it. Let the chart tell you what is going on rather than, I'm going to remove this segment, rather than just say, all right, I'm buying the breakout. This is not a momentum play. The momentum does not look good enough for that. That being said, Anne-Marie, what if you're wrong? What if it breaks out? Where do we go next? Let's draw the box. That is, old resistance is way down here, but resistance, new support, right there at that volatility edge. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Oh, for goodness sake. I tell you, operator error every day. I am just the worst. Okay, look at the halfback. The halfway up to the edge, it just cuts this box in half. So 607, a breach of that takes us to 608.50. Then, you know what? On the downside, what do we have? Close to the breakout zone, but the value area high at 604.90 is very likely to be that better spot with really a much deeper move to the south at the 604.20 area. Okay? That's what we're looking at. All right, Qs finally. Trend up, it's by the dip. Can the dip be significant? Of course. Where might the dip become more significant? Well, if we can lose 521, guess what? Looked at the call walls, and actually I just looked at the chains, and the chains show that 521 pretty important, and 523 pretty important. I'll be checking that again 15 minutes after the open to see where the 0 DTEs land, but this looks pretty stinking sideways if you ask me, and so that's what we could be seeing for a bit. Here's the thing. If we lose this area and you're looking for a long, sit on your hands until it gets back down into these lower areas of support. We filled the gap, so we don't really have to worry about that, but that is a lot of low volume that could end up being a magnet. That's all the way down at 517. All right. If we rise, we've got another 525 zone that we might be looking at to the upside here. That could easily happen. However, the topping formations showing on the hourly chart says that traders are going to try and short here into support, and then the breakaway, just build the box out. You know what? It's about $2.20 to the north, so it'll give us maybe 225, 226 at that next edge. And you can walk it all the way up as long as trend decides it's going to be your friend. All right. Good luck trading today, folks. Hope the mechanics help you. I'll see you in the streams.